Look at your body right now. Whatever shape it's in, your doctor has a word for it. Your culture has an opinion. You probably had a feeling about it before you finished that sentence. Here's what nobody tells you. For 300,000 years, your ancestors almost never got fat. Not because they were disciplined, not because they had willpower or ate clean or counted anything. They didn't try. And yet the condition affecting over 40% of adults in the developed world today was essentially absent from the human species for almost its entire existence. Something changed. It wasn't you. To understand what, you have to go back. Not to the 1950s, not to fast food or sugar lobbies, further than that. All the way back to the body you're actually living in, the one built for a world that no longer exists. Your body has always had one job: keep you alive long enough to reproduce. Everything else, your moods, your energy, your cravings, your waistline, is downstream of that. And for most of human history, the biggest threat to that job wasn't heart disease. It wasn't stress. It wasn't sitting too much. It was tomorrow. Specifically, the possibility that tomorrow there would be nothing to eat. The Hadza in Tanzania, the Kung Bushmen of the Kalahari, hunter-gatherer groups studied by anthropologists in the 20th century, still living something close to the original human lifestyle. What researchers found in all of them was the same. Some days the hunt worked, some days it didn't. Some weeks were abundant, others weren't. Your ancestors never knew which kind of week was coming, so your body built a solution. Store everything. When food appeared, your metabolism sent a signal. Eat. Eat more. Find the richest, densest, most calorie-heavy thing available. Fat, sugar, marrow, honey. Convert whatever's left over into body fat and hold it. Because body fat is not a failure. It is a battery. It is the thing that kept your great-great-grandmother alive through the 2 weeks in January when nothing grew and the hunters came back empty every single day. For 300,000 years, this system worked perfectly because the environment had something built into it that your body never had to manage on its own. Scarcity. Here's what a typical day of eating looked like 50,000 years ago. You woke up, you may or may not have eaten the night before. You walked at anywhere between 5 and 15 miles depending on the season. You dug up roots, tough, fibrous things that your gut had to work hard to break down for relatively few calories. If the men had a good hunt, there was meat. Lean, wild. Nothing like what's in a grocery store refrigerator. If they didn't, there wasn't. Honey existed, but getting to it meant climbing a tree, taking hundreds of stings, and competing with other animals for access to a few hundred calories. There was no snacking between those events. Not because your ancestors were disciplined, because there was nothing to snack on. The food your body was built to crave, fat, sugar, salt, was genuinely rare. That rarity was doing half the work of keeping your metabolism in balance. Your brain lit up for honey because honey was hard to find. Your body stored fat efficiently because fat came in bursts, not continuously. The craving was calibrated to scarcity. And then we removed the scarcity. In 1962, a geneticist named James Neal proposed what he called the Thrifty gene hypothesis. His argument was simple. The genes that make modern humans prone to obesity, the ones that drive aggressive fat storage, that make calorie-dense food irresistible, that make it almost impossible to feel full when rich food is in front of you, those genes weren't mistakes. They were the point. Selected across hundreds of thousands of years because the people who had them survived famines, and the people who didn't were more likely to die before they had children. The Thrifty gene hypothesis has been refined and argued over since 1962. Not all of it held up, but the core observation was never seriously challenged. Your body is not broken. Your body is running a program written for a world where calories were scarce and everyone you found was worth keeping. That program is now running in a world where a single restaurant meal contains more calories than your ancestor consumed in 2 full days of foraging. The program didn't change. The world did. But this is where the modern conversation goes wrong. Because it's not just about calories. Your ancestors weren't just eating less. They were eating food with a completely different physical structure. Wild plants have dramatically more fiber than anything in a modern diet. The tubers and roots and vegetation your ancestors ate were so fibrous that digestion slowed to a crawl. Nutrients released gradually. Blood sugar rose slowly and fell slowly. And the hormonal response, particularly insulin, the hormone that signals your body to store fat, stayed low and stable most of the time. Modern food does the opposite. Processing removes fiber. Refined carbohydrates, sugar, white flour, most packaged food are digested almost instantly. Blood sugar spikes, insulin spikes. And elevated insulin doesn't just store the current meal as fat. It blocks your body's ability to access the fat it has already stored. You are simultaneously gaining fat and unable to burn it. Your cells are full. Your brain still thinks you're hungry. This is not a willpower problem. This is a hormonal state your body was never designed to manage, because the foods that create it didn't exist for 99% of human history. Here's the part that surprised even the researchers. In 2012, anthropologist Hermann Ponzer and his team published a study on Hadza daily energy use. The Hadza walk between 5 and 15 miles a day. They hunt, they dig, they climb. By any modern standard, they are extraordinarily active. They burned almost exactly the same number of calories per day as sedentary office workers in the United States. The same. Ponzer's team called it the constrained total energy expenditure model. When you increase physical activity, your body compensates. It quietly reduces energy spent on inflammation, immune response, and stress hormones to keep the total output roughly constant. Exercise matters. It matters a lot for health, but as a weight loss tool used alone, it is far weaker than we've been told. So, if the Hadza burn the same calories as sedentary Westerners and don't get fat, and it's not exercise, what is it? It's the food, and when they eat it, and how their bodies respond to it hormonally. Wild food, high fiber, no processing, genuine feast and famine cycling that keeps insulin sensitivity intact, a metabolism that still works the way it was designed to work because nobody spent 10,000 years engineering food to override it. That engineering started about 10,000 years ago. When humans invented agriculture, everything changed. Not all at once, but the direction was set. For the first time in human history, food was stored in quantities large enough to eat continuously. Grain silos meant that the famine half of the feast-famine cycle could be reduced. That sounds like pure progress. In many ways, it was. Fewer people starved, but there was a metabolic cost. A body that is never allowed to fully draw down its fat stores. Insulin that stays elevated. And slowly, across generations, the diseases that define modern life, obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, began their long climb. The fossil record shows it clearly. Skeletons of early agricultural populations compared to the hunter-gatherers before them are shorter, show more signs of infection, more dental decay, more nutritional deficiency. The first farmers were not healthier than the people they replaced. They were less healthy, just more numerous. So here is where you are. You are carrying a body built over millions of years for a world that has been gone for 10,000. A body calibrated to scarcity, to fiber-dense wild food, to genuine feast and genuine famine, to hormonal cycles that reset themselves because the food ran out and stayed out long enough for the system to clear. That body is now living in an environment where every ancient craving is met instantly and continuously, where sugar is in everything, where food is engineered by teams of scientists specifically to hit every pleasure signal your brain has without triggering the satiety signals that would tell you to stop, where you eat at the same time every day regardless of whether your body needs it because that's what the schedule says. Your body isn't failing. Your body is doing exactly what it was built to do, in the wrong world. For 300,000 years, your ancestors almost never got fat because the world made it nearly impossible. The food was hard to find, hard to digest. The craving was real, but the object of the craving was rare. We removed every obstacle between the craving and its satisfaction. And then we blamed the craving.